those that I've not met, I'm Geoff O'Keefe. I'm the Executive Director of Zen Peacemakers, and I'll be hosting our friend Joshin Byrnes Sensei today. And good, we've got Franziska Schneider from Germany's coming in now too. So what a nice group. Thank you all for attending. For those that perhaps are here for the first time, or are less familiar, and then for everybody too. If you're not a member of Zen Peacemakers, please join us. It's free. It takes about 30 seconds. You can go to the website, zenpeacemakers.org, and just fill it out. There's no approval process. You don't have to memorize anything. There's no secret handshake or anything like that. And so join if you can, but even if you don't, be sure to sign up for the newsletter separately. That's how you hear what we're doing. And we send that out once a week. It just went out this morning, and it'll let you know the upcoming events. Today's gathering is the format we refer to as Zen Peacemaker Circle, Peacemaker Circle, and we have a number of different topical areas of focus in Zen Peacemakers. This could be war and peace. This could be gender issues, end of life, interfaith, the arts, the environment, homelessness, food insecurity, racism, any number of topics like that. And on a weekly basis, we really try to move around into different areas of focus to keep it interesting for you. So another good reason to subscribe to the newsletter so you can keep track of what we're doing because it changes all the time. And generally, we try to do one of these a week. Sometimes we've done two or three. And along with counsel, we offer counsel online and longer training series. We've done a number of. Last year we did 115 separate events like that. So it's quite active and quite lively, and you're welcome to join for any or all of those events. We'd love to have you. It's worth noting that all of those are free, and it's our dedication, is my dedication personally, to keep it that way. In order to do that, we obviously need support. So this is the one time I'll say this. If you can help us, there's a donate button on the website, and it really helps us, keep this activity going forward. So today I'm really delighted. My friend Joshin Byrnes Sensei is here from Breadloaf Mountain Zen Center in Vermont, and what a gift! I've been smiling all morning, looking forward to this. When I talk to people, especially people who are new to Zen Peacemakers, want to know, what's going on and who's doing what, I very often refer to Breadloaf, and my byline for Breadloaf is the little Zen center that could, because for a relatively small Zen center in not a big city. This is not one of the big,
City, not a city.
not a city, not a city at all, a village,
Yeah.
perhaps. But for the size and scale of Breadloaf, Joshin and his Sangha and leaders managed to do an extraordinary amount of activity from food trucks to street retreats to hospice, a residential program, and Joshin's going to talk about all that today. So we really are focusing as much as we can on the third tenet, the taking action tenet. We're trying to really highlight as much as we can, that commitment to from stillness, from not knowing, from bearing witness, from that aggregate of awareness, standing up and getting off the cushion and going and doing something to help people to relieve suffering, to create peace. So, Joshin Byrnes and Breadloaf Mountain Zen Center are exemplary examples of doing just that. So, I'm going to mute myself, Joshin, and thank you once again so much for being here. And I'll turn it over to you, and thank you all for being here as well.
Thanks. Thanks, Jeff. And it's always lovely to be here with this group. Well, I'm really happy to be here with all of you and talk a little bit about our work. Um, so what I'll do today is I have a slideshow just to so it keeps me a bit on track, and it has some words and pictures along the way. And I hope where this takes us is to have a conversation about yeah, Jeff said it well. It's kind of the third tenet, which of course is all the tenets, always. Um, but to talk about the place of um, action, response, service, care in our practice. And so I'm just going to kind of run through a bit of an introduction of who we are and the different ways that we practice. And at the end, leave up some of the questions that we're sitting with as a Zen community. And we can just take the conversation wherever it's useful for all of you. Okay, sound good? Good to go? All right. So I'm just going to share a screen. Great. And I assume you can all see that just fine. So, first of all, the picture on this slide is the picture from our altar at Breadloaf Mountain Zen Community. It was during one of the far too many wars on the planet that we came into the Zendo one morning. And we used to have just a single Buddha on our altar. And then we had two Buddhas facing outward to the Sangha, and we all sat in a circle for morning Zazen. And that morning, I think it was maybe the beginning of the Gaza war, it struck me that maybe one of the things we need to learn more than anything is how to look each other in the faces and to see one another. So in that morning, I turned the Buddhas toward each other. And this has become, in many ways, I think, the symbol at the heart of our practice at Breadloaf Mountain Zen Community is, can we approach the world in this way as a Buddha and a Buddha, greeting each other, bowing to each other, and remembering that that's really at the heart of the practice. It's always a Buddha and a Buddha. And this presentation is called Community Zen, Practicing Together in Closeness. I chose the term Community Zen because I wasn't so wild about the term socially engaged Buddhism. And I wanted to get down to something that was a little closer to home and that emphasized um, that we practice in close and deep relationship with one another. That's kind of where the rubber hits the road. And so I've been playing with this idea for a few years now of what is a community Zen? What is community Zen? And this presentation will be a little bit about some of what we're discovering as we explore that question. So the first thing I would say we've been learning is that we're trying to practice with the everyday realities of life. And one of the everyday realities of life is that we all live in a community or belong to a community. And so I often like to say we are practicing very close to home in a relational practice that's rooted in everyday life. And I suppose it's worthwhile to ask, and we'll dig into this a little bit, whose everyday life are we talking about? What is everyday life? Is it my personal everyday life? Is it our everyday life? And what is that life? What's it made up of? And in Community Zen, we emphasize that we're practicing um, in close proximity to one another, physical and um, relational proximity to one another. And we're practicing day by day. So, Community is Zen is not just a series of one-off service days that get tagged on to some silent practice. In fact, practicing with others day by day in the fabric of community life, the rhythm of community life is the practice, is the very heart of the practice, not an enhancement of the practice. It's not a result of the practice. It is the practice. And that requires of us a very steady and continuous presence to one another, day in and day out, which leads us to a process of deepening relationships with people we might not usually hang out with and spend time with. So we are this day to day, I'd like to call it experiment in everyday Zen, because being in the community in this way is it becomes impossible to really anticipate what might happen in a day, who might come through the door, what kind of relationships might emerge. And in that way, the practice is an experiment, moment by moment. That said, as an experiment, it has roots in my own kind of practice history and training, of course, in the White Plum lineage and Soto Zen. So we do maintain inherited forms and upayas. We have priests and robes and a traditional looking altar in part of our complex building and practice life. We also are developing experimental forms and skillful means, ways of plunging people into a relationship with one another and seeing what's there. We are, of course, grounded in Zen Peacemaker's rule in three tenets, and that is a steady through line to everything that we're doing. And we respond very much to the call to serve in the cracks. This is a term that Bernie used, and it's a term that's always moved me in my own personal practice to work in those places that are more lost or forgotten or left behind. We ground ourselves in Dogen's teachings. In particular, we're drawn to the way Dogen refers to the ordinary aspect of life. And we draw a lot on the three heart minds that he talks about in the instructions to the cook, the joyful heart, the nurturing heart, and the all-inclusive heart. And these are also kind of pillars of the practice that we come back to quite frequently. And then for the last decade or so, I've been involved in a movement called the New Monasticism. And this has emerged largely out of the community of all the folks who say they're spiritual but not religious, but who want to maintain a vigorous and rigorous contemplative life that organizes itself in small communities of friends, has a commitment to sacred activism and service, and honors the unique calling of every being in every community. And if you want to read a good book on this, look up The New Monasticism by Rory McKenty and Adam Bucko, who have done really wonderful work in exploring whether there are new forms of monastic commitment emerging in our contemporary society that draws on some of the ancient archetypes, but takes on new shape. And so this also influences our practice very much. Let's see, it's not letting me. advance here. There we go. I would also say that this particular chapter of the Lotus Sutra, which I kind of referred to with the opening picture of the slide projector slideshow, is chapter 21 of the Lotus Sutra, the Bodhisattva Never Disparaging. And this is the story of a bodhisattva who makes a vow that lasts for eons to bow to everyone, no matter what happens, whether he is spat at or cursed at or things are thrown at him, that he realizes that the people are doing that to him when he offers a bow to them because they don't love themselves enough to receive his bow. And so this bodhisattva makes a vow to never stop bowing. And there's a wonderful song that Alan Sinoke, the late Alan Sinoke, often sings about this bodhisattva never disparaging, that has this verse in it. I will never disparage you or keep you at arm's length, where you only know your weaknesses. I only see your strengths. I will never despise you or put you down in any way, because it's clear to me, you'll plainly see you'll be a Buddha someday. I love you. And I would say this part of the Lotus Sutra is a deep inspiration for us in Community Zen. The practices we've developed emerged out of street plunge practice, which I've been doing for a while. I know some of you here on the screen have done street retreats with me. I've done them all over the country. I've maybe done, I don't know, 35 or 40 or I don't know. And one of the things that I've observed in large cities and small towns all over the country, as I've kind of borne witness to life on the streets, is that in so many places, people express how disconnected they feel from one another, alienated, not seen. And as I've kind of opened to that and heard that, seen people express that, I began to see that in all kind of parts of life. That, the CDC and the public health people talk about the pandemic of loneliness. And addiction, for example, is often talked about a that the root of it is a deep sense of disconnection. We hear so much about the pandemic of deaths of despair, often born of disconnection and alienation, lack of human contact and acceptance, presence. And this became very apparent to me on street retreats. And one time I was on a street retreat in Rutland, Vermont, a little working class, politically conservative town of Rutland, Vermont. I was on a solo street retreat there. And I hung out for a long time in a Walmart pharmacy in the height of the opioid epidemic, but was still kind of in the height of that. And I was struck by how angry people were who were waiting there in the pharmacy at Walmart, complaining about how systems and people and neighbors and landlords and social workers had abandoned them, left them, fending for themselves. And people were angry about it. There was a kind of harsh quality to the conversations that I was having with people in this pharmacy. And I came out of that thinking, I feel like one thing we could offer is a place for people to be met with kindness. Just that simple. And that is really what gave birth to Breadloaf Mountain Zen Community. Our first idea was to just have a nomadic community down in Rutland somewhere that just opened its doors and served coffee. And in some ways, parts of that became how we function and operate. Geoff mentioned a food truck that we had for quite a while. We used to do pop-up meals in all different places and just create community wherever we went. Eventually, we purchased a building and thought of it as the hub of our practice, but the spokes coming off of that hub would be all kinds of upayas that help address the pandemic of loneliness, the feelings of disconnection, to that create opportunities for all of us to be seen by one another in more intimate ways than just getting to know each other by our labels or our diagnoses or our class or our political preferences or all the many, many different ways we narrow each other's identities. So, in creating a community Zen, um, I noticed that I was using a lot of words to describe what we were doing. And so now I kind of think of it as the beehive of community Zen. And these are just some underlying concepts in what we do that influence how we show up in these kind of variety of spaces that we create. One is to see the tendency we have to break from one another, to separate from one another. And this is both our personal and internal habit energies around breaking and separating, and also our cultural and systemic ways of breaking and separating. And in seeing how we tend to break from one another, gives us the opportunity to think about how to bridge toward one another, to reach across the many divides, those places that make us uncomfortable, where our differences make us afraid or anxious. And we begin bridging concretely with one another with sincere hearts and by developing skills for bridging, conversation, talking, being with people, listening skills, those kinds of things. That in doing that, we are bearing witness to the whole of life, all of the many things that make up life, the complexity of what is, whether that is heartache or love and resiliency and beauty, grief, loss, celebrations. We try to let it all into our relationships. And in doing that, we are choosing to be with each other, to accompany each other over time in relationship by staying in relationship with each other without needing to fix other people or avoid aspects of other people or control things that are going on. And this is true toward others, and it's also true about our relationship with ourselves. And this, I believe, is lays the groundwork for a deep sense of belonging that isn't based on what we have in common or our sameness, our common ideas, beliefs, ideologies, religions, values, but a deep sense of belonging that transcends those different identities and is built instead off of the shared desire every human has for happiness, and that every human desires a deepening of their relationships. And that's what we mean by belonging. That's what the sense of belonging is grounded in. And belonging isn't something that we check off a list, now I belong. Belonging is a lifelong, continuous practice of awakening to one another. And in that context of belonging to each other, we can grow and develop. And we recognize that all of us are just works in progress and that we are profoundly shaped by our surroundings and our proximity to one another. This is grounded very much in the Buddhist teachings of spiritual friendship, virtuous friends. This is what shapes our lives and value systems in the world we live in. And because it's a continuous practice, we have to begin again and again and again because we make a deep commitment to consistency and continuity and being reliable so that we show up in durable, lasting relationships over time. So this is our building. It's our new building. And the buildings behind it are also our buildings. So we have a mandala of practices that I'm going to talk about today. We have a temple for Zazen and contemplative practices, ritual life. We have Gather, which is a drop-in center, community living room. We have the Grove, which is these buildings behind our main building, which is transitional supported housing for there are 4 apartments um, for largely people coming out of incarceration and are transitioning back into community life, and also for people transitioning out of living outside and homelessness into community living as well. We have a Zen Peacemaker quilt project that I'll mention briefly. We have ongoing residency, internships, and a fellowship. We have a local and an extended Zoom-based Sangha, and we have something called the Infinite Circle community for people who have received the precepts. So I'm just going to touch on a bunch of those and just paint a picture of the mandala of practices that we have. So in the Zendo, I mentioned that we maintain what we might think of as the inherited practices of wearing robes and having rituals and chanting sutra, of offering precepts, people being ordained. And it takes a number of different forms. Sometimes we sit in a circle around an altar and do the gate of sweet nectar. Sometimes we have the 2 Buddhas on our middle altar and we're offering incense and reflecting on what it means to be in intimate relationship with one another. Other times we're sitting in the more traditional format of rows and doing prostrations and so on. So we try to have the Zendo be a fairly flexible space, but with a single root deep into the contemplative aspects of practice. I would say the whole practice is rooted here in Zazen. And that everything emerges kind of out of this process of continuously opening to all that is. Gather is our community living room. We It's open numerous days a week, and we started this about 3 or 4 years ago. It's been wonderful and fun. It's the practice at Gather is to simply open the door every day and make sure there's coffee and food. And then we welcome everyone who comes through the door. It doesn't matter where they've come from, where they've been, what they're doing, what condition they're in, where they're headed. It really doesn't matter. Everyone is welcomed. And a wide spectrum of people come, college students, uh, people who live in the neighborhood, people who live outside, people who are receiving services at social service organizations and mental health programs, folks who are in active addiction, people who are in recovery, people who voted left, people who voted right. We welcome everyone equally. And that in and of itself is a practice for all of us. It's that chapter 21 of the Lotus Sutras is trying to bow to each person that comes in through the door. We wind up doing all kinds of activities there, play games, sing songs, dance, as you see. I have a little here, I'll play a little video for you of just a moment at Gather. And this is from our Saturday sing-along. Every Saturday, we just fling the doors open, whoever comes, and people come with instruments, and we take requests, and we just sing. And this becomes a profound practice of belonging and togetherness and closeness. People from all walks of life just singing together. And as I play this video, I invite you not just to listen to the song and the words, but to listen, whoops, sorry, listen to the sounds all around the songs as well. Let the sights and sounds kind of seep in. And so it gives you a little bit of a sense of what it's like to be there on a Saturday morning. And that's fairly typical for us. At Gather, we try to bring people together who normally would not spend time with each other. Um, uh, this gentleman up here, Chad, he died living in one of the homeless shelters just down the block, and we were able to have his memorial service that packed the room of people. Chad, who had been kind of disconnected over the years of coming together, I think experienced a lot of connection. And when he died, the community really felt the loss of his presence. Or here, Abby and Sandra. Abby knitted that hat for Sandra, and Sandra was just thrilled to receive this hat. And here, the generational difference, young and old, people who really otherwise would not be hanging out together can become friends and enjoy each other's company and see something wonderful and beautiful and fun and joyful in each other. And so we set Gather up as an experiment in togetherness. We uh, don't structure it very much at all. There's very little programming. We just trust that people coming together will begin to seek out what they need and offer from what they have. This sign sits in our front window. Why do we gather? And I would say, we created this sign on the front end. And I would say over the years of doing it, we find that these are all the reasons and many more that we gather for comfort and to mourn, to celebrate, to say goodbye, to be safe, to pray, to find our way, to recover, to explore, to be silent together, to solve problems we can't solve on our own, to be vulnerable, to build community. And it's really the simplest little thing. All we do is open the door and make coffee, and we let life unfold. The second big piece of the mandala is the grove, what we call the grove, named after Jeddah Grove. And these are 4 units of affordable, supported, transitional, subsidized housing. We have a relationship with an organization, a statewide organization that partners with the Department of Corrections. Um, so people come to the Grove after having been released from prison, but still on parole, who are through the halfway house system and are now really doing the work of reintegrating back into jobs, community life, and independence. Once they are finished with parole, they move out of the Grove and into independent, fully independent living. So this is a transition. We've had this program going since January, and we've already been through 3 rounds of people coming through. We also have a unit that's available for Section 8 vouchers, and those are often folks. We have a very deep waiting list, like many parts of the country, for people to find housing, Section 8 housing. This property came up for sale after we purchased the property next door. It was the owner of it had died in a car accident rather suddenly, and the family wanted to let go of the property. And we were not really prepared financially to purchase this, but the board and I took a courageous leap and we decided to do it. We mortgaged ourselves out the wazoo to make it happen. We also had some really wonderful donors step up. And I'm really proud of the organization's willingness to take the risk and to dive into the housing crisis as an aspect of action that arises out of not knowing and bearing witness. So we've really been integrating this into our work. One of these units may become hospice for people who are otherwise disconnected from family and institutions at the end of life. So we have a number of donors who have expressed interest in subsidizing one of the apartments so that we could provide family-based care at end of life for people who, for whether it's mental health issues, extreme poverty, active addiction, are facing the dying process alone and perhaps not best suited for hospital setting. So we're in the process of we did this work once before in our old property and had a really powerful and wonderful experience of an accompaniment through the end of life there. And so we're exploring doing that again right now. During COVID, we started a Zen Peacemaker quilting project where we crowdsourced fabric from all over the world. Thousands of people gave, thousands of pieces of fabric came in from dozens and dozens of people on many continents. And we, with a group of practitioners, started piece together quilts that have then been given away since then to Ukrainian refugees. So this little baby in the middle, this picture is taken in Poland. This is a refugee family in Poland who received quilts from us. We had a number of families, refugee families coming to Vermont from Afghanistan, and we were able to gift those families with quilts. And the lion's share of the quilts, we've made so far about 70 or 80 quilts. They're given to children in the foster care system as they're transitioning into different foster homes. So this has been a really fun way for us to take some of the skills we develop in sewing rakusus and sewing okesas and the long tradition and history of sewing in Zen practice and turning it into something that gives comfort to others. And that continues. We have a program called the Infinite Circle Community. This is it's how we are organizing some of our online programming, inspired by Bernie's book called The Infinite Circle. A number of years ago, I started a 2-year training program called The Infinite Circle that looked at the intersection of our relationship to money, economics, and Dharma. And it resulted in a ordination of community ministers who worked at the intersections the wealth and poverty divide, the economic divide in society. And since then, it's evolved into an online community of people who have received Jukai through Breadloaf. We have about 70 or 80 people who have received the precepts through us. And it's a monthly theme-based program where we offer teachings and devotional programs and ways of getting together each month to strengthen the bonds of community in our online Sangha. And it's been really interesting and wonderful process for us. I think one of the big questions for many people in our generation of Zen is how do we cultivate intimacy in the online space? And like you all, we are also experimenting with that and finding our way into it. We also have a residency at Breadloaf Mountain. We have a number, our youngest little resident there, way to the right. We have offered residency to young families, to people of all ages. We only look for a commitment to deep practice with one another. In residency, people work in our providing support, hosting, gather, cleaning, doing gardening, helping with quilt making, doing property management at the Grove. So it's a full embodied residency that also includes 7 mornings a week of meditation. We open our Zendo 7 mornings a week and 3 evenings a week, weekly Dharma talks, Fusatsu and Gate of Sweet Nectar every month, chanting on weekends. So our residency program is a Zen training and formation residency program. And we also got a grant this past year to offer a Zen Peacemaker Fellowship, which is a person who we're able to provide a small, very modest stipend for, who takes on a kind of 6 month training program in nonprofit management and learns everything from the basics of fundraising and budgeting and volunteer management, website update, and things like that. And we hope to be able to keep that program going. It's dependent on ongoing funding. So as I mentioned, we still practice with questions. Of course, the whole practice is questions. You know, Bernie used to say, "I'm not interested in the answers. I'm interested in the questions." And that's where the practice resides. And so we sit with a lot of questions these days. One of them is, what if a Zen center was also a low barrier neighborhood refuge? What is a temple, really? What is a temple? Can we bring the heart of Zazen into our relationships day after day without ceasing in this kind of continuous form, not one-offs, but to really make it the way we live our lives, the length of our days, every day in relationship with our community? How do we create these relevant and embodied and place-based experiences of the harmony of oneness and difference, the experience of it, not just the intellectual idea of it, but can people experience in the context of relationship and friendship, the harmony of oneness and difference? And a big question is, and how do we extend that into the online community? How do we remain a diverse community of practice and not slip into social service mindsets? I worked in the AIDS epidemic for many, many years. I have great belief and admiration and trust in the social services, and believe they're an essential sector of society. But they depend on certain ways of separating people. You have to claim a diagnosis. You have to wear a label. You are clearly one of the helped, or you are one of the helpers. And what we're trying to do is create a practice community where we can blur all those lines, where people don't have to qualify for anything because they have gotten a diagnosis or because they meet certain criteria, because they can be categorized. We also try to blur the difference between helpers and the helped, people who are offering and people who are receiving, trying to sit more squarely in the Dana paramita, the Dana teachings, which is that giver, receiver, and gift are really not distinguishable from one another. So, how do we live in that paradigm? We have questions about who is the Sangha? And is it the same question as who is your neighbor? And what does it mean to have intimacy in the Sangha? And because this is an experiment, we live with questions in the livelihood sphere of how do we fund and resource and sustain the practice? What is just enough when need is so great? And how do we support ourselves, maintain ourselves financially without deepening the economic divide? I think we need more experiments in this area. That I think the retreat center model is wonderful, but it's limited, where people pay tuition to go get Dharma. We're trying to develop models where we don't charge for anything, where there's a gift economy at play, where we work much more in the paradigm of exchange and mutuality. And that's very challenging in a economic culture that depends on commercial capitalism. And so we're trying to find our way through all of that. We've been very fortunate to have networks of supporters. And I see one of my core practices as a continuous practice of raising a mala, of holding out the begging bowl and offering people opportunities to engage in dana. So closing this part, I just want to go back to our weekly music jam with one last clip. This is from Christmas time this past year. And again, I just invite you to listen to the whole mandala of activities going on here and to look at the faces of people as they sing this Christmas song.
No, I haven't gotten a coach. I was cleaning the sink and stuff in the bathroom with my scarf. Whoops. Don't think you wanted me to do that, but I did anyway. Why not? Clean everything.
We have to put him in his kennel, take him home.
Okay. There you have a little taste of our practice life. Okay. So let's open it up to conversation and questions. Yeah, Jitsujo.
Thanks so much for showing all of that. Yeah, I have a question and I have to pop off to go to something else, so I wanted to get it in. Yeah, I'm just curious how you might respond to, I guess, the tension. Okay, so just directly the question is, how does kind of implementing these new programs, how does that affect like the teaching and transmission of Zen Buddhism, like the traditional Soto Zen? And how might you respond to concerns from Sangha members of like this turning into social services? You kind of talked about it, but I guess I'm just curious if there was any resistance that people in the Sangha thought like this is just gonna, we can't be doing social services. We should be, teaching and transmitting Zen Buddhism.
Yeah. We do run into a little bit of that. I think, this comes out of my own understanding of Zen Buddhism. These don't feel disconnected to me. They're expressions of exactly what I learned in traditional temple forms, of sitting in zazen, of studying sutra and the precepts, of learning how to be a Zen priest. For me, this feels like it is being a Zen priest. And I bring the same mind to this, to making coffee as I do to offering incense in my robes. It's the same mind. There's no difference in mind at all. And I think, I feel like Bernie did at one point, where a lot of us can go to sleep in the traditional forms. We can kind of get really used to them and we start thinking like, oh, sesshin is my favorite thing in the world to do, and I can't wait to sit 8 days in silence, And I don't think that's the point of sesshin. I think the point is to plunge deeply. And these are plunges. And I believe gather is a living koan. I think affordable housing is a living koan. And our lives and relationship across the wide spectrum and diversity of a community is a koan, a three-dimensional koan. What is this? Who am I? Where have I been? Where am I going? And those are all koan questions. And so I also have to say that I tend to be a little conservative in the traditional arenas of practice. I have considered deeply dropping Zen priesthood and derobing, but I've decided to maintain it because I realized that what I'm doing as a priest is exactly what I'm doing at Gather. But that didn't come to me immediately. I saw them as kind of at odds in a way with each other. So now in our new space, we've decided that part of our experiment is to is to thin out the membranes between these different aspects of practice. So Gather, the drop-in center, and our Zendo are separated by one door with a glass window in it. You look into each other, and that's the only separation that exists. And I think that's an important practice for me, to be able to sit in that threshold and move back and forth between them. And I would say the students who come to us are students who are curious about that experience. And there are students who come to us for whom that's not their scene. And they can go elsewhere and find other scenes. So, that's how I'm playing with it at this point.
So just a quick follow-up. Like, what about the Grove? Like, why not like leave the Grove to, social services? Like, why is that important to have as attached to your Zen community?
What is the community? These are our neighbors. The Grove is immediately next door to us. So if we think of the Grove as part of our temple grounds, then it becomes an altar. And I think we honor housing and that kind of transition people are making as sacred activities. And so it helps our minds to have it in the mandala of our practice, to think, oh, that's not excluded here, that we're all seeking home. We're all seeking home. That's part of our mandala. So it's symbolic in a way. It's also real. Like, how, as a Zen practitioner, am I a property manager? What does it mean to craft a lease, to hold someone accountable, to paying rent, to knowing when to be flexible, to making sure that the condoms that have clogged the pipes get removed properly? It's like, this is everyday Zen. It's like, wash your bowl, this is it. What else is there? And so I just think, the practice comes alive there too. So I hope that's not a sidestep of your question.
No, that's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Lara.
Thank you. And especially the last video, it just moved me to tears. The foot tapping, great photographer. You speak of we. Who are the we? We are doing these things. We have decided.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of different we's, right, in each context. So part of the we is a board. Part of the we is the teacher team. Part of the we is the priest community. Part of the we is the local Sangha. Part of the we is the extended Sangha. So there are a lot of different we's. Part of it is the network of social service providers in our community. Part of it is our partnership with other faith-based organizations in town. There are a lot of we's. And I think, part of what we do is flow in and out of all the different we's that get constituted along the way in order to get things done. And try to constitute the right groups for the right function and action. So I'm the founder, so I'm still a bit in controlling mind around some of that. The board, I see one of our board members is here, Taito. Um, she might tell you that, where it's like, this is how it has to happen. Uh, and then a we gets formed around that, and then there's an exchange of ideas. So, yeah, I would say part of skillful means here is thinking through um, the right constellation of skills, resources, talents, and conversations that need to happen to make each part of the mandala function. Yeah. Hi, Judith. Yeah. Judith, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay. Hi. Um, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I live in an area where I haven't found a Sangha. I came from a larger city. There was a lot of availability there. So I'm just asking you, what kind of online opportunities are there with your Sangha and with you?
Yeah. Like many sanghas, we make our meditation available 7 days a week. Our Dharma talks are also free and available to attend on Wednesday nights. And our monthly ceremonies are also all accessible and available. We also have a number of different online programs going on throughout the year. We have online sessions, um, online workshops and seminars on of a whole variety of topics. I see Shinryo is on, she's going to help us revamp our website so that all that becomes more accessible and available. Um, but again, my hope is anybody can just click in to find something that supports their practice and also deepens their sense of connection to others. Yeah,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
yeah, sure. Hi, Francisca. Nice to see you.
Hello, Joshin. It was wonderful to see what you are doing, and it's in quite a short time. It's incredible. I'm really impressed. And there are so many questions coming. Question. How do you manage all that? There are so many topics, so many fields that you're active in. Also, I had the question, who is the we? How many? You must have 1,000 arms. And you also mentioned that you do it without any tuition. So it's free. You must have a lot of donors. Well, how do you manage also to have time for everything? Also, the time management of human resources and time. Can you say something to that?
Yeah. I often like to joke and say the answer to how is yes. And I have to say, today I want to remember Roshi Joan Halifax today, who's having surgery. She was my
Today. Oh,
She was my teacher, and I trained in Upaya Zen Center. And I have to say that in relation to your question, I got good training at Upaya Zen Center because I was forced to have many roles at one time. And I learned there that Zen practice is a practice of mental plasticity. Like you just keep turning from one thing to the bell rings, you move to the next thing. The bell rings, you move to the next thing. And I really appreciated that temple training. And so there's a quality of that in what we do, which is um, it's time to focus on this, and you put that down. And then it's time to focus on this, and you put that down. I think, perfection can be the enemy of the good. And so we have to take good steps, not perfect steps. I think we try to maintain an attitude of a learning organization, which is we learn by doing. And we try to integrate what we're learning as we go. And in that context, nothing can go wrong. Just nothing can go wrong. If all you're doing is learning, then what do you have to worry about? And so we move in that way. The how, the who, the we, like I said, it's many different groups. We, we have a few, we have many donors, people who give from $5 a month to people who have given us a $200,000 interest-free mortgage, so that we could limit our interaction with banks that charge interest rates, and everything in between. And my feeling about all that is, for as long as we can do this, we will do it. We ask for what we need, and we work with what we receive. And this is what we've received. And so we use every penny of what we receive to take a step, to do something. We don't build endowment. We don't have a big bank account. We just see what comes in. And if we see an opportunity, like with the Grove, I saw an opportunity, I put it out there, and people responded. And if they didn't respond, we wouldn't have done it. So I think it's part of being in a relationship is being able to say, here's an opportunity, or would you like to support? And, how would you like to be a part of this? And then we go from there. But I'm not a traditional fundraiser. I'm not counting how many donors we have. I don't do many asks, actually. I don't do a regular Dana talk. Actually, I feel kind of strongly that we shouldn't embed requests for money into every time we express the Dharma. I'm very careful at Gather, for example. We never ask for money at Gather, never. There's no donation box or anything like that, because we never want people to feel like there's a pay to play kind of aspect to that. So it's challenging and it goes against the stream a little bit. But I'm not committed to permanence. I'm committed to impermanence, the truth of impermanence. We don't know how this will all play out. And I'm not interested in guaranteeing our future. And that makes for interesting board conversations, Yeah. Francisca, does that get at a little bit of what you're getting at?
Yes.
And we scale things to what we have. If we had more money, we would probably do more. If we had less money, we would do less. I don't think the metric is size. I think the metric is depth. And I also think the metric is continuous practice. Are we staying in practice? No matter what, good days, bad days, when money's tight, when money's flush, it's the same practice. So I feel pretty strongly about that. Yeah, and I realize on the other side of it, there are challenges, like we've made a commitment to this community. What if we can't sustain it? What happens to people who have come to depend on our presence in the community? And I could get all caught up in that, but that's not what's happening now. So I come back to practice with what we have now and just maintain the practice. And can I trust that? Taito, I see you there, and I'm wondering if you wanted to add anything as one of our board members.
Uh, Afternoon, everyone. No, not really. I mean, I like that you really did highlight that this was an experiment in some ways, right? I think we are doing things um, and embracing the Dharma and living the Dharma in a very unique way. And we don't always know if it's going to work, but we have a willingness to step forward um, and respond to life as it arises. So I just really appreciate that spirit of that. So I'm really grateful to be a part of this community. So thanks.
You know, Eve is my current teacher, so I appreciate maintaining a very strong connection to, in particular, the early experiments of the Zen Peacemakers. Is my little personal crusade is that we see many, many more experiments and a lot less safety in Western convert Buddhism. That we have people willing to take risks and fail gloriously. Because I think that's what will advance Western practice. And I think we need a lot more, Zen Peacemaker-like experiments going on, where we're really playing with what does it take, to do this in a world like ours. And the how do we use the experiment as skillful means? They're all upayas for our own awakening and the awakening of the world. So like, how do you do it and not waste your failure, not waste your risk taking? But to use it for collective awakening. And for me, when I get into that mode, I then find myself not worrying a whole bunch. I also don't feel overworked, quite frankly. This was your question about like, where do you find the time? I think this is our life, the length of our days and day and night, we meditate upon it. It's what our vow is. And there's so much joy in it. For me, it doesn't feel like a burden. I don't feel burnt out by it. I remember once Roshi Jones said to me something like, if you're burned out, she said, then you're not practicing properly. And that sentiment can be abused and misused, but there's also something true in it. That if you're grounding yourself in vow, you just do what's needed, and there's kind of nothing to do and nowhere to go.
We have a few more minutes here, folks. If anybody else has a question or a comment or an observation, or if you were particularly inspired by something that Joshin shared. I definitely am. I'm as Joshin, as you're talking, you refer to this as this small group of people doing things that are local and face to face and within your reach. But I have this image of what if there was a gather in a Breadloaf Mountain and a housing support project like you've got in every small town in the country. I mean, it's profoundly revolutionary. It's radical, and
Well, one of the things We do. So our novice priests live all over the country. And one of the hopes I have for um, all of them is that, we sometimes use the idea of a strawberry plant,
Mm.
that they're doing their training at the mother house. And we send out this runner, and they will set down roots in their own community and take the Dharma that's been inspired by their training with us and plant something in a similar vein where they are. And I think that's the orientation of our training. And that's the idea is, that you plant Dharma seeds and see what happens. And so that's part of the hope.
Hmm.
Because I do think life in our world would be better if we just opened the doors and welcomed everybody in
Hmm.
and got to know each other a little bit and had some coffee and a piece of cake and sang a song maybe, um, and got to know each other over time, not just as a flyby, but in relationship, day after day, watch each other grow old. Something changes in our lives by making that kind of commitment to one another. And I do think we're living in more impersonal times than that. I think we've lost in our society settings for hanging out,
Yeah.
these so-called third spaces. Um, and that some of the work is some of the medicine, I think, for society is to recreate settings where wholesome hanging out can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Karen?
Yeah, thank you. I just had a couple questions about the Grove. Just and real basic stuff like do you serve men and women or both? Are these bedrooms with common spaces or apartments, individual apartments, or that kind of thing? So
Yep,
thank you.
it's people of any gender. Um, uh, right now, they're all separate apartments, self-contained apartments. They all have laundry within them. We invite people we respect their independence and their privacy. They're maintaining jobs and things like that. We also invite them to participate at Gather. And so they know that that's a resource for them. And right now, I would say the primary work is giving them an experience that they can be in a relationship with a so-called landlord that's characterized by warmth, kindness, interest, not just collecting a check. But there's something of friendship and neighborliness that we're trying to model in that relationship. And we have one woman and two men living there now. And July 1st, a new tenant will come into the fourth unit. We just moved out a couple from Afghanistan, actually, a young man and young woman who just left about a week ago. Yeah. Shunryu.
I appreciate this all so much, Joshin. Wow. I'm not the Shunryo who's going to update your website.
Oh, sorry. Shunryu,
I
right.
am the Shunryo, Suzanne Weber, and Roshi Eve is my teacher.
Right,
I'm
right,
here in
right. I know
Western
you. Hi, good to see you
Massachusetts.
again.
Yeah, you too. Um, I'm really struck by the kind of special confluence of your um, experience as a community organizer for many, many years, having lived in a monastic or in a residential setting for many years with a very strong minded teacher, and then kind of somehow being able to bring all of that together in this very innovative, um, deeply rooted in the Zen tradition expression, the mandala. And I wonder, many, many things, like people have said, with many questions come up. One of them is um, about the scalability, or you mentioned scale. And I think about Bernie's, spectacular failures. I have one little window into the spectacular failures end of Bernie's experiments. And I love that you put them in the framework of, we're always learning. What are we learning? And let's not kind of waste any of the failures. And so here in Western Massachusetts, in the community that has worked with him when he landed here, there's still some work to do to kind of repair the experiences.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of an aside. In our small Sangha now that Roshi Eve founded, we're in a strategic planning experience wanting to scale gradually, more like you say you are. We use the ingredients that come in, and we're not going to marry ourselves and our energies to fundraising or trying to scale beyond what we can or do bring in. And so we're going to go into our neighbor community and kind of find a place to begin sitting and just sort of begin, because right now we're in a very traditional, beautiful Zen hall that Fleet Mall has is part of, rents us, along with the Prison Mindfulness Institute. We want to move more into town. And of anything that I've said, I welcome your comments. And also, what advice or experience can you share about finding the space to sort of unfurl these mandalas?
Yeah, well, I'm going to channel Bernie. We all have to work with the ingredients in our kitchen. And I worked in the AIDS epidemic for 15 years, and I worked in community philanthropy for another 15 years, and I did Zen training. I also lived in a Catholic monastery early in life and got kind of rooted in that kind of way of living. So, those are the ingredients of my life. And so then you cook with them. One of the problems with replication is we think, we should all have the same ingredients, and we don't. I found myself sometimes wishing I had other ingredients, but I don't. So you can work with these ones. And then the other part for me is to keep my eyes open for opportunity for practice. Like what sparks my own passion, there's something here, I look for that in a way. I try to stay open to that. So I'm not working outside in some ways of my passions. I'm doing what I care about, which resources the work and also allows me to see opportunities. And some things we start really small, like the pop-up. We were giving out breakfast out of the back of our van, car, for a year, just making breakfast burritos and going to Rutland and opening up the trunk. And we called it the food trunk. And that was it. That was it. And then something grows and emerges, out of it. So in some ways, it's like a funny mix of not reaching beyond where you are. Like, it's like work at the pace of insight, opportunity, and passion. And see what begins to emerge. And we've stopped things that we started. Like we no longer have Street Greens, the food truck. It was a moment in time that we did that. It made sense then. it stopped making sense. So we gave that truck away to a vocational development program for developmentally disabled youth. It's being used in that way now, but we have no longer anything to do with it. Is that a failure? I don't think so. It's just, its time came, its time ended.
Thank you.
We're coming up here to the close. Shinryo, did you have a follow-up? It looks like maybe you did.
No, I don't. I just said thank you.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Yeah, we're
sorry, I couldn't
approaching.
see on the small screen that was you. So I apologize for misidentifying you before.
I love the metaphor of the strawberries. Sokyo, who is doing your website, brought me a piece of the Pando aspen from Utah, which is reminds me of what you're talking about. One of the largest organisms on the planet, and one of the oldest, and it does the same thing. And looks like all these different trees, but they're all connected. So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
We are just at the end of our time here, and perhaps this is a good place to wrap up. Uh, Joshin, I so appreciate you doing this. This is just really inspiring. I can speak personally for me, and I see people nodding, and I hope this really uh, is an influence for all of us to look around and see what it is that we can do. And it's not going to be the same, is it? We're not going to do what Breadloaf is doing necessarily. So that everyone knows, and so that I have an agenda with these, and that is that this kind of inspiration gets spread as far and wide as possible. So to help us do that, we record all of these, and in a couple of days, it takes Jim a few days to cook the video and get it up onto YouTube, but it'll be on our website, available for all of you to look at, and more importantly, available for all of you to each go tell 10 people to watch the video of Joshin sharing what it is that he's doing, so that we have a broader reach and a broader influence. So. And maybe with that, Joshin, thank you so much. I very much appreciate this. Your heart, your time, your wisdom, your work, and all of that.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Joshin. Wonderful.
Okay, we'll see you later.